Good afternoon, everyone. We are blessed to be here on Off Hours. I'm always blessed to be here with my partner, the double B himself, Blaine Bartlett, my master mentor in life. Looks like he's getting a little sun. What do you think, Philippe?
Yeah, I think he went skiing, I would guess.
It looks that way as well. And anyway, we have incredible Blaine Bartlett. He is moving possibility into reality, but he will give you the mid-step of probability as well. So he takes you from possibility to probability to perspective, which is your reality, which our dear friend here today is helping us as well. Philippe, welcome to Office Hours, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm going to let Blaine lead off as I am getting situated with our first question, if you wouldn't mind, Blaine.
Yeah, Philippe and I were talking a little bit before we started the show here, and yeah, you've got an interesting distinction. John Chambers, as you mentioned, Philippe wrote a book, Connecting the Dots, and your book is titled Aligning the Dots, a New Paradigm to Grow Any Business. Can you give us just a real quick synopsis and distinction between connecting the dots and aligning the dots? Because I like where you're going with this.
Well, the aligning the dots is much harder because you have to figure out which one to align, and you need to move them in order to realize that alignment. If you connect, you're just drawing a line from one dot to the next. It's less challenging, let's say. So I think alignment is really hard.
So basically what you're doing is there's an inquiry involved with this that says, are we on the same page or not, such that we can create alignment. I can connect to something that may not be on the same page.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And it's all about alignment. And specifically, the book is about solving a very vexing problem that any CEO, any entrepreneur, any business leader has, which is, what do I need to do on Monday morning at 8 o'clock to grow faster, to grow my business? And it's a deceptively simple question, like saying, well, what do I do on Monday morning to be a good dad or a good mother? And it's a very complex answer. And what we found is that the answer is fundamentally based on the notion of alignment between the business and its target market. And the reason companies don't realize their growth potential is because somewhere they are misaligned with their target market. And the whole idea of the book is to define what those alignments are and actually be able to measure them, to measure the coefficient of alignment from 0 to 100%. And then once you start to measure, you understand the data, you understand the insights, and then you can start to put together what we call a growth playbook. And that's really what the book is all about.
Okay.
Now, you've lived an interesting life and had interesting experiences, and 20 hours of your life or more has been spent falling at over 120 miles an hour with over 1,000 skydives. I've done a few skydives myself as well. But if you think falling fast is part of skydiving, our friend Philippe worked for the amazing Steve Jobs. One of the common denominators of people who work with Steve Jobs is they don't end up with a lot of hair, or they end up with gray hair. I was blessed to be in the Silicon Valley with Steve, and a few years older than me, and really enjoyed Walter Isaacson's book about Steve Jobs. But one thing that Steve Jobs did better than almost every entrepreneur I know is alignment with his consumer. And his design skills were exceptional, freakish, in my opinion. And he saw things differently, which made it miserable for people to work with him, because he saw things so much differently. For you, what was the biggest lesson that you learned working with Steve Jobs in this idea of aligning the dots?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Steve had an amazing eye and intuition for what customers want, and I have no idea how he did it. I mean, he was brilliant and way out there. But at the end of the day, once we shipped a product at Apple, because of that understanding of what consumers wanted, and in particular simplicity, which is really hard, then the alignment was de facto there. And that's why I believe Apple is so successful, because it's aligned with its customers along those four independent dimensions. And Steve, for some reason that I cannot explain, had a vision for it. He had a flair for it, and he could detect that. And many times I asked him, I said, well, why do you think we should do that? And he said, I just know. I mean, it wasn't even a discussion. He wasn't even trying to explain. He was like, that's the way it's gonna do. And if you don't like it, then you can leave Apple and work for Microsoft. And if you like it, then don't ask the stupid questions. Just do it, you know. But he was amazing for that. I mean, and the other thing is, you're absolutely right. I did lose my hair working for Steve. I almost lost my marriage, which I didn't, thankfully. But it was very hard. I mean, like everybody who works for him. So, but I would do it again. I really.
Oh,
you know, sometimes I really miss him. I miss his brilliance. I mean, he was a brilliant person, and I haven't seen anybody close to that. And I miss him, and I wish I had learned more. I didn't realize at the time I was younger, but I should have absorbed a lot more and observed. And I wish I had done that.
You know, I think that's such a wonderful thing to say, that I do it again. I wish I would have learned more, because I am blessed to be around people like Blaine Bartlett in the same aspect of, you know, listening for the clues and the patterns between sentences. And sometimes when you're listening to people like Blaine, it's not what says, number one, it's how he says it, and two, it's what he's not saying that is so interesting, that puts me down a rabbit hole. And I have had several conversations with Steve Jobs when I was too young to realize the brilliance that he had. I excuse my language, I just kind of walked away going, wow, why is he such an asshole? But you know, when you're not the same as everyone else, people love to judge you. Anyway, Blaine, these are some of the lessons that you taught me as well. What are you thinking about?
Well, I was, you know, the whole notion of design, and I'm going to use design in the broadest possible sense, which would include ontology, you know, ontological design, you know, designing something so it designs me in return. And I think that was part of Steve's brilliance. I tell this story. I used to work as a consultant, you know, external consultant, leadership development work with Nokia. And this was back in the 1990s. And when the iPhone came out, I was, you know, still with, you know, working with Nokia. I was in their labs, and, you know, and this thing came out called the iPhone, and the buzz and everything around it. And so I ended up getting one. What was astounding to me from a design perspective was the packaging. Now, the phone itself was extraordinary. It was, you know, I mean, obviously it was groundbreaking, but the packaging, I still have got the box from that first generation phone.
Right. You can't trash it.
No, yeah. But it was so beautiful. And this kind of goes to, you know, Philippe, my sense of what do I align with. The purpose of business is to create the experience of uplift, or the experience of, you know, the possibility of thriving. Yeah, in the mind of the consumer, whether it's a service or product that they're consuming. When I got that box and I started unpacking it, I felt like a 3-year-old kid at Christmas. It's kind of the promise of what was in there was so amazing. And then the phone came out, and it kind of fulfilled the promise. But that box, I'll never forget that box.
Yeah.
The ability to connect and align with that sensibility, that align with that, the promise of thriving.
Yeah.
I've got to go ahead.
Go
ahead. No, I'm just, kind of, where does it land in your world?
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people say, well, Steve is good at designing products. And I always stop them and said, Steve has never designed a product. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? And I said, Steve is designing the experience.
Yep.
And when you talk about the box, the smell of the box, the noise that the scratch makes, the fact that you can easily know how to open a box, that is part of the design of the experience. And Steve was thinking and was obsessed about all those details. And again, it's not about the product; it's about the emotional connection between the consumer and the experience. I remember buying Office 97, I want to say, and I actually was in Redmond. We did all the work with Microsoft at the time, and I literally got the box, and I wasn't able to open it. It was like a book, and you had to open it. It would pivot on the trench.
Remember that box?
Completely non-intuitive, and I ended up breaking it. I bought a brand new product, and 5 minutes later, I started to break the box. And that was an illumination for me. It's like, well, Apple would never, ever design anything like this. There's no way you would buy a box of an Apple product and break the box. That would be, you'd be fired. You'd be fired for even thinking about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that was,
right.
and
That's a beautiful story. I love that
Well,
contrast.
Philippe Bouissou, just remember, grass does not grow on a busy street. And for over
Right.
three decades in the Silicon Valley, you've been leading the way as an entrepreneur, CEO, venture capitalist, investing over $43 million. If you want to learn about Silicon Valley and venture capital and how to utilize it and manage it, execute on it, take it from the guy that has the most that I know. He's not afraid of falling fast. One of the great attributes of being an investor, you cannot be afraid of falling fast or rising even quicker. The incredible Philippe Bouissou. Check out his book, Aligning the Dots. It's a must read for anyone that's an entrepreneur or in venture, the new paradigm to grow any business. Thank you so much. We'll have you back, my friend. There's many more shows that we have. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor. Thank you, both of you. And thanks for your good and thoughtful questions.
Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you.
Dr. Philippe Bouissou. Tina Parker's here waiting in the wings, and we'll have to thank her for her incredible, look at that smile. I saw her in the green room.
That's radiant.
She's lighting up the green room. Tina,
Well,
welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Blaine. So great to be with both of you today.
Well, thanks for being here, and thank you for your service. You know, Blaine and I are both extremely great for the options, opportunities, touches of favor in our lives, and we know that it takes people with distinguished careers. As an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, we really appreciate all that you've provided us. You are the founder of Lead Outside the Lines,
Yes.
and leadership development is something that Blaine and I work diligently to help build intelligent followers. And there's no doubt that the military primes us to be intelligent followers, which we both believe to be great leaders. What were some of the things that you learned through your career in the Air Force that have helped you to develop yourself as a leader? But more importantly, there's no better instructional model to utilize than our military. How do you help people in learning and developing that leadership?
Yeah, and it's so true. There's so many opportunities in the military to lead and be led, and they can be intertwined, right? You can be a leader at the same time as you are following others. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned is it's a both and world, right? It's not either or. And for a lot of us, especially in the military environment and corporate environment too, like we find ourselves in a box of who we think we're supposed to show up as. And just like what Philippe was just talking about with alignment and design, like being aligned with who we truly are and bringing our gifts to the table and designing an environment where other people get to do the same, it makes such a difference in what becomes possible. Because we all have our own ideas. And even though we might be inside of a rigid, seemingly rigid environment in the military, being who we are and bringing our true gifts to the table, it's what unlocks possibilities.
Yeah, I love that, the whole framing around possibility.
Yeah.
And I'd be very interested, Tina, from your perspective, as a military leader, and I've got a little bit of experience in working with some of the folks, both in special forces, but also just in general. The idea of influencing rather than command and control. Can you kind of carve that out a little bit here in terms of the work you do, and also what it is that you recognize as possibilities with both of those modalities?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think especially inside the military environment, people think you automatically go to command and control. And what I will share from my experience is I never felt like I led from a rank structure. I always felt like I led from an influence structure. And even in basic training, like I was a commander for Air Force basic military training. So yes, I went through it and then came back and was a commander. And it was right after 9/11. So it was at a time when we were like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen in the world. And we need to shift the way in which we are preparing our airmen for what they're going to face because we just don't know. Right. And so we couldn't come at it from a standpoint of command and control. We had to come at it from a standpoint of who has ideas about what might be possible out there and who can bring that to the table so we can create what's going to be most needed for our airmen. And that came from an influence standpoint. And even for me at the time, I was 28, I was a captain, and I went in to lead this 70 drill sergeants, basically. We call them military training instructors. But I could not come in with a command and control perspective. They had so much more experience technically than I did, right? So we had to come at the table from an influence perspective in order to get the best result.
Thank you.
And amazing. And you've utilized the similar type of training from neurocoding, mindset, a variety of performance and management combined. You were recognized as the only government organization recognized by Fast Company as best workplace for innovators in 2020.
I know, right?
Actually beat out Amazon, which is pretty killer as well.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But I was curious because, coming from a government organization, it reeks of bureaucracy and interference. To be seen as one of the best innovators is work is an anomaly if you're a government organization. What do you think the key mindset differentiator is? Because you obviously had a different perception as a government organization of what you really were, and I'm sure it applies to this idea of outside the lines. But I was wondering where that brain health and coding mindset facilitator characteristics and capabilities came into changing the way your people looked at your company, which allowed them to change as innovators.
Yeah. And I love that you brought outside the lines, because that's really where this was born out of. The whole concept of leading outside the lines is not getting stuck in that box of how we think we're supposed to show up, the shoulds, the supposed tos. And what you're speaking of is AFWorks, the Air Force Innovation Catalyst. And that was when, and it was really do it different, right? We just talked about Steve Jobs and his whole do it different. That was our perspective, was come to the table and really go, okay, we don't know what we don't know. What's out there, right? How might we reach out to small businesses who go, hey, I think I have something for the government, but I am not going to go through all that bureaucracy and red tape. Forget it, right? How do we lower the barrier of entry? How do we also reach out to airmen who are young up and comers who have great ideas and want to be seen and heard, right? And valued for their perspective. And that's what we did. So we created two pathways, really. One for the airmen to have ideas to bring them up to the senior level. And then the other to reach out to small business, to entrepreneurs, to venture capital to go, what are we not seeing, you guys? What do you see that we don't see, right? And so I think what really, the crux of it really is dropping the ego. It's dropping the ego and realize, I just don't know everything. What you got? Bring it, right?
Yeah, radical humility goes a long way in the definition of arrogant ignorance, of thinking or knowing we don't know, but pretending like we do, especially, by the way, as a parent, where our main motivator is fear for our children. And so we're giving bad advice out of fear instead of realizing the humility of there's a difference between safety, fear for safety, a little baby by a pool. That's okay to have fear and to do that. But when we're giving advice about professions and boyfriends and friends and other things in life, we really have to lean in as leaders to develop future leaders, allow ignorant humility to lead the way. And there's no doubt your expertise and your experience and your capability is a great formula for a lot of companies and organizations, venture organizations out there. If you want the best in leadership development, I got two of them right here with me, old school and new school, Blaine Bartlett and Tina Parker. The 1-2 punch, you're going to get a different perspective, but you're going to really provide the opportunity for people to live to their potential, aligned with the outside the lines, leadoutsidethelines.com. Create an organization full of thinkers, intelligent followers, and Tina will help you lead the way. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you back. Well, we'd love to learn more from you. You're local to us, so come and visit. We got a lot of fun stuff that we'd love to have you at. So we'll have our teams reach out to you. Tina, thanks for joining us.
Wonderful. Thanks for being
Thanks,
here.
Tina.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you again for your service. As always, providing extraordinary lives with extraordinary wives. All right, here we go. William Ury is here. He's author and co-founder of Harvard Program on Negotiation, the third side partner. Can't wait to talk to him. Welcome, William.
Welcome. Yeah. Thank you, David and Blaine. It's a huge pleasure to be speaking with you.
It's our thrill, and thank you so much. Today must be Possibility Day, Blaine. And I didn't even get to my notes because of my internet, but I want to talk about your book to start with, Possible, How We Survive and Thrive in an Age of Conflict. Now, I like the word interference more than conflict. Conflict is a presumption of a competitive comparison, and there's a lot of people that don't have a conflictual bone in their body, but they have so much interference that they're creating, and that, of course, interferes not only with the possibilities, but the probabilities, of course, the perspective and the reality. What is at the core of the conflict when you talk about the age of the conflict that limits the possibilities that people are given?
Well, we live in an age, I mean, when I ask, business leaders and audiences of any kind, is the amount of conflict in your life, is it staying the same? Is it going down over time? Is it going up? Everyone says it's going up. We're increasingly polarized as a society. Conflict's often paralyzing our ability to actually realize the possibilities that are out there. And so, if I was a Martian anthropologist, I was trained as an anthropologist. And if I was a Martian anthropologist looking at humans today, I would say, wow, you guys have the most amazing opportunities. You have the most incredible technologies. You can solve just about any problem you want. And the only thing that's in the way seems to be this wave of destructive conflict that's getting in our way, because there's nothing that stops us if we can work together. So that's why I wrote the book, was to really draw on, I've spent 45 years working in some of the world's toughest disputes, whether it's boardroom battles or labor strikes or civil wars around the world. And what could we possibly offer today that could help us unlock our inherent potential to transform conflicts?
William, I've loved the Harvard Negotiation Project. I was first exposed to it way back at the beginning. I mean, this goes back a long way, probably as long as you've been involved with it. The idea of conflict, just as, if I use conflict as kind of a metaphor for friction, friction.
That's it.
Friction generates heat, and heat generates light. So people don't, and this is what I've loved about the project, is you're teaching people how to not have conflict, but how do you use conflict to illuminate possibilities? And that's where the heat cleanses, there's a cleansing process, but it illuminates. Where do you address that? And I'm assuming that you do. I'm making a big assumption here, but where do you address this in your book?
Yeah, no, it's at the core of the book, Blaine. That's exactly it. It's like, there's this conflict, and what we tend to do often is we tend to go into avoidance. We either avoid, or we might go on the attack, or we might just accommodate. But actually, there's a different way out of that trap, the 3A trap, I call it, which is to embrace it, welcome it, lean into it, and then change the form. Because we're not going to get rid of conflict. We're not going to get rid of all the things that create tension. It actually, in its healthy form, we need actually more of it, not less, because it's what makes for the best decisions. It's what makes for a healthy, vibrant democracy. It's what makes for a healthy marriage, is actually to surface our differences. So the choice isn't about ending conflict. It's about changing the form from destructive to constructive, to listening, to dialogue, to creative negotiation, so that we can realize the possibilities of life.
Love it. And William, do you believe that this quest for equity, inclusion, under the name of diversity, is counterintuitive when it comes to negotiation. I myself ran Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment, the second best-selling negotiation book in history, next to yours, which sold over 15 million copies, by the way, which had to deal with yes. But I believe that today we're missing a component in order to achieve true equity. And it's one thing to treat everybody the same. My mom had 6 kids, and she said, I'm not doing my job if I treat you all equally, because that would make a presumption that you're all the same, and you're not. Some of you need different things than others. That's just the way you're born. And I believe that we're missing a word called appreciation in the negotiation. If we can instill appreciation of the differences, then true unity happens, which then also parallels equity, meaning that if we're all in the same unified system of thought, and we're all different pieces of a unified system, then appreciation of the differences, the only conduit that provides us, even in the construct of negotiation, the solution to the problem that today people believe is to treat everybody the same. Yeah,
you're right. I agree with you, David. I mean, it's about appreciation and even celebrating the differences. And often, you know, it's the thing is, actually, in negotiation, it's the differences that allow you to actually come up with creative solutions. I mean, you know, there's the, you know, the old fable about, you know, 2 sisters quarreling about an orange, and one sister, they quarrel about the orange, one sister, they cut in half, and one sister takes her half, eats the fruit, half the fruit, and the other sister takes her half, throws away half the fruit, and uses half a peel for baking a cake. In other words, you end up with half a peel for one and half a fruit for the other, when just by split the difference, when if you actually ask the question, why do you want? What do you actually really want here? I want to cook. I want to eat. Then you get a whole peel for one and a whole fruit for the other. And so it's the differences actually that make creative negotiation possible. So we need to appreciate them. We need to celebrate them.
Yeah. Love that metaphor.
Beautiful.
That's great. That really
amazing.
Is. For the sake of what?
For the sake of what? It's such a blessing to be around someone who has a abundant philosophy, not a zero-sum game philosophy. I appreciate some of the negotiations books that are out there that are based on scarcity. And I really enjoyed reading your first book, and really look forward to reading the second one, Possible, how we survive and thrive in an age of conflict and interference. And if we can have more like you out there helping to explain this unified system that we belong to, and how negotiation doesn't mean winner and loser. It means winner and winner in my book. And it's leaders like you that have taught me that. Author of Possible. Hold up the book behind you, because this shows at airports, and people seem to buy books at airports. So yeah, even though I know it's transcript, like you get the subtext, nobody really listens to us at the airport, but they see the book and they go buy it. And we want this one to sell more than your last book. So congratulations. We have other shows. Please promise me you'll come back on our other shows as well.
I will. With great pleasure, David. A real pleasure, Blaine, too. Great. Take care. Be a possibilist.
Be a possibilist.
It's in his subtitle there. I'm the ferocious Buddha, and he's moving possibility into reality.
I know. Well, that's it. So, you know, we're in an age when, you know, people ask me if I'm an optimist or a pessimist. I say, actually, I'm a possibilist. I believe in human possibility. Yeah.
I'm a toptimist. So I'm a little bit unrealistic, but I'm a toptimist. So I believe everything's possible.
That's great. Terrific.
Good stuff. Thank you, William.
Right.
Thanks, William.
Right on.
Right. Bye.
What a great guest. We're 3 for 3.
I love this.
The staff that we have, our producers are exceptional, and they did not let us down with our closer. Patrick Elsner's in the house, franchise consultant at Franchise Insider, one of the core backbones of America, the franchise, and over 20 years experience in helping corporate executives and aspiring franchise owners achieve their possibilities of being business owners without as much dummy tax and mitigation of risk. Welcome, Patrick Elsner.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I want to start with that backbone question that I have. I think a lot of people don't realize the significance and the impact that franchises have, especially in America. And I use my favorite franchises and one of my favorite founders, or entrepreneurs, I should say, who bought the right to be called a founder, Ray Kroc. One of the most significant impacts of his franchises was that it actually connected America and provided our automobile industry a huge boost, because he had a consistent, safe place to stop when you drove across the country. You had the same foods, a clean bathroom, a telephone, and this had a significant impact on our culture and our country, not only culture, but economically as well. You can look inside the country and see that franchising absolutely is a backbone. What are some of the other facts that I may not know that we can help people with to understand the impact that franchising has on America?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is it gives people an opportunity to be a business owner. So many people will come to me and they'll say, Patrick, I don't have an idea for a business. And I say, that's great. Don't worry about it, because what you're getting with a franchise is kind of a business in a box. It's like buying furniture from IKEA. As long as you follow those instructions, you've got a real good shot of being successful. The key is taking your skill sets and making sure that they're applicable to help you mitigate your risk and be successful in whatever franchise you end up going with.
You know, the idea of franchising, and I'm going to put this in the wheelhouse of capitalism, which is where it belongs. Capitalism has got a bad rap going around it right now, because most people will look at the top 100 companies in the world and go, well, that's the way capitalism is being done. That's not the way capitalism is being done. When you go down into smaller organizations, and franchises are representative of that in a very large way. Yeah, you've got actually in Adam Smith's notion on the Wealth of Nations, reciprocity, trading partners. So every franchisee I've ever known has a relationship with their suppliers. They've got a relationship with their customers that isn't hypothetical. It's not an abstraction. It is, rubber's meeting the road right there. So how they take care of each other is actually, the bread and butter of effective capitalism. And in the way that you work, one of the things that I'm struck with here is, and I'm taking this directly from some of the show notes that our staff has prepared for us here, but empathy is a large part of the way that you work with your franchisees. Just empathy. There's a feeling component to being able to be successful in the business world. How do you actually work with that as not a formal part of the franchising operation, but how do you actually inculcate empathy into the work that the franchisees actually end up doing with their businesses?
Well, the empathy comes in because I have been where they are. When I became a franchise consultant 21 years, I was working for the big corporation, and I was dealing with the bureaucracy and the politics and the fiefdoms or fiefdoms or whatever you want to call it. And, you get to the point where you just go, this is too much. This is too much to handle. I'm working hard, but why do I have to sit here and worry about what my boss thinks about me and the suit that I'm wearing that day and all this stuff that really is really insignificant to my productivity? And so people come to me, they're saying, Patrick, I'm tired of working for the man. I'm tired of working for corporate America. I'm like, I get it. I've been there. Let me see if I can find a franchise for you to own, and you can become part of that 1%.
And just to finish up, the value of being the leading consultant in franchising and small business like you are, one of the processes that people have a difficult time doing when they're looking at businesses, shopping for businesses, executing and starting up businesses is a process that I call testing and vetting. We have, especially in the franchise realm, an enormous amount of trust in a franchise. Even if the franchise may have had sold 300 franchises, sometimes it's difficult to ascertain the opportunity as it's evolved. And I see a lot of franchises fail because they haven't been vetted properly, and then utilize someone like you, Patrick, that has understood the truth versus maybe overselling, back-end selling, maybe even lying, manipulating, and cheating when it comes to selling franchises. There's differentiators of regions and cost of goods and timing, real estate. There's so many different variables. Would you say that that idea of trusting and vetting is one of the main values that a consultant like you brings to the table?
Yeah, look, I don't care what the industry. We could take lawyers, doctors, bankers, Catholic priests. There's bad actors in every industry, and franchising is not immune from that. But here's the beauty about franchising.
Does that apply to presidents as well?
What's that?
Does that apply to presidents as well?
Well, applies to presidents as well. Absolutely. Governors, attorney generals.
Just checking.
But the beauty of this model here is if you're interested in a franchise, learn about the franchise model, talk to the franchise development folks, and then pick up the phone, talk to owners in Orlando or in New York or in California or Texas. They're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the upside. They're not going to sugarcoat it. And some of the things you probably will say, oh boy, if I realize that, maybe I don't want to join this franchise. And that's okay. What you want to do is you want to get a full 360 view by talking to those current franchise owners and hearing from them what they say.
Good.
So smart. There's no better way to get to where you want to be. Find someone that's already there and ask them for directions. Franchise consultant at Franchise Insider. Patrick Elsner has been in this for years, working with the biggest companies in the world, biggest franchises in the world, corporate executives who are aspiring franchise owners. He helps people not just make it possible, but also probable achieving their dreams. Working previously, I think I met you years ago in St. Louis when you were selling some advertising with the Cardinals as well, when Gene Tennis was a coach there with Tony. In my old days, I recognized that voice as we're sitting here and then saw in my notes, like I knew him from somewhere. So you still have a future in radio, my friend, and I have a face for it. You have a voice for it. We make a great team, the three of us. Come back and join us. Check out Franchise. What is that correct?
Yeah, it's real simple URL. It's just franinside.com.
There we go. Fran Inside. I thought it was Fran Inside. So franinside.com. I'm glad I caught that. But Luca's far higher in her elevated awareness than I am. I appreciate my team for bringing Patrick on. Come back and join us. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Great meeting you, Patrick.
Thank you, guys.
You bet.
So good. All right. Well, obviously, we're going to have a takeaway relative to your subtitle. So go ahead. And I just have a question. Is that sunburn from skiing or fishing?
Actually, it's just from the sun coming out in the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of like.
Well, I'm glad you're getting outside because you look healthy and we love it. What's your takeaway for the day, Double B? Possibility
into reality. I got to run with it. I really do. Possibilities exist everywhere, and yeah, you hit it. There's a middle piece to this that doesn't get into the little piece there, but how do you move possibility into reality? You have to move through probability. It has to become probable in somebody's mind. They have to recognize it. So possibility is the leadership function. I articulate the possibility, hand it off to management. They work with the probability structure, and then you've got it translating into reality. Possibility into reality.
I love it. My takeaway is applicable to all four of our guests, that great leaders are great followers, and that it takes, if you're a great leader, a corporate executive looking to get into a business, it takes another great leader like Pat Elsner to follow. But also many people are following you. And so that we're constantly one hand up, reaching out for help, and one hand below us, pulling up a seat next to us to help other people as well. So be a consummate leader, whether it's the government or in the private sector, business, whatever it may be, at home. Be it outside of the line thinker while you are reaching up and reaching back as an intelligent follower and a incredible leader like my friend Blaine Bartlett, who's moving possibility into reality, helping so many people, but yet still living in humility and asking for help himself with a variety of new pursuits in his beautiful journey. And I'm blessed to be part of that journey. The incredible Blaine Bartlett. Go to blainebartlett.com. I look forward to Thursdays. Just see you. Thank you for everything you do.
You bet, buddy. Hey, have a great training tomorrow morning. It's going to be awesome. It always is.
Thanks so much. We got season 5 of Office Hours, which you're on. And
that
it premieres
launches
tomorrow
too. Yeah.
We're doing the takeaways from season 5. We'll have multiple guests coming on, giving their lessons of what they've learned from the incredible experience of being on Office Hours, the TV show, streaming on Apple TV, Roku, airports, hotel rooms. Quite a big following now, and we are blessed to have a huge community. Over 4,000 views have taken place on Office Hours TV and digital, and that's thanks to my partner. I think we're at episode 594, so we'll be coming over 100 before April, and you've been a big part of it on TV and in the digital realm, taking possibilities into reality. My partner in Office Hours, Blaine Bartlett. Thanks for joining me.
Later, buddy.
Awesome. See you later. All right. I got to see that guy today. We had a board meeting for the unstoppablefoundation.org, where we are blessed to be serving so many people around the world. Beloved servants, that's what I'm looking for. You want to join a community of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other? Then email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Join me in our text community to alert you in the 200 cities that I'm going to be in 2024. 948-298-2905. That's how you're alerted. That's how I'm alerted where I'm supposed to be. You can be alerted where I'm supposed to be and meet me where I'm supposed to be, whether it's coming up here, SoFi Stadium on Friday and Tuesday, Las Vegas for the Final Four, New York, Phoenix, the Masters. We got so many cool things going on. Meetups, masterminds, free Friday trainings, IG Lives, Office Hour, Premiere. There's so many things. You got to join me to be alerted. Still, we're doing it all for free. Come to training tomorrow, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern for free Friday training. It's the takeaway of season 5 of Office Hours with the billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers leading the way. Be a ferocious Buddha. Be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Thank you, team. Raluca and Gigi. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow.